Welcome back. We're back inside BMX Live TV. I'm Jason Richardson with the G-Raf himself, David Graf. How you doing?
Hey, how are you? I'm good, thanks.
Where are you? Where are you currently locked up?
I'm in Stuttgart at the moment. Living here since November last year, and I moved here to train on the big track they've built a couple of years ago, and moved here together with my girlfriend. And now in quarantine mode. They shut down the track at the 15th of March, I think. And I just got the news that they might let us train again from tomorrow. So we'll see. Small groups and some restrictions, but we can get back on the track, and that would be great.
Yeah, well, that's good news. You can see we have some housekeeping going on at my house.
Yeah, my dog's just cuddling next to me too. So
it's crazy. It's so funny. Like everybody's home everywhere. Like you're home. Everyone's home. So it's just so crazy. But yeah, we're having some fun conversations with some other pros such as yourself, and I just wanted to know what's your I don't know if it's your best lap, but your most favorite lap, your most memorable lap in the World Cup, and you have a lot of laps to choose from. So, what would you say your best lap was?
I thought it's the best main, but the best lap I didn't really think about. There were so many, but one of the most memorable mains I had was Papendal 2016, and it's the lap itself is not that special, even though it was against some of the biggest names in our sport, with the Machine, Murray Stromberg still racing, and Sam Wilby fighting, and Joris in the main. So it was a very big main event to be part of, and it was. Well, I haven't had too many mains to that point, and the build up to that race was very special because it was like one of the last Olympic qualification races, and the internal qualification was very heated, and Renaud Blanc just podiumed at the World Cup in Manchester like 2 weeks prior to that race. And we knew like our system was whoever does pretty much the most main events will go to the Olympics, and he podiumed 2 weeks ago, and you pretty much have to do a podium or at least a main to stay in the game, and then still have the Olympic dream going. And the whole season was really special. He was always like in front of me for the semis. So I saw him in the semi, and then I saw him getting through to the main, and then knowing you have to do the main now as well, otherwise he's. So
he was in the so Renaud was in semi number 1. You were in semi number 2.
Yeah, pretty much all the World Cups.
Yeah, and then you saw. So you're on the game. You're watching him make the main, and you're going, oh man. No.
And it's a friend, you kind of. It's not that I don't like him doing a main, but it's something. It's very like putting some pressure on, and you know how it is if you're up there on the 8-meter hill. You kind of try to not watch too much of the race in front of you, and at the same point you always see it. You can't really ignore it. And then in Papendal, it was the first time that I was in the semi number 1, and we were joking, and I was like, oh yeah, finally I don't have that extra pressure and whatever.
Right.
And then one of our guys had a flat tire, and they swapped, so I was in semi number 2 again.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, we were just joking about that whole build-up, and then I was like, "Yeah, finally, I'm in semi number 1. No pressure from you doing a main or whatever." And then I was in semi number 2, watching him getting through to the main, and I knew I have to do it. So I made the main, and then I lined up next to him in the main. We were, I think, in 6 and 7.
So okay, go through. So Maris was in the main. Joris was in the main. You were in the main. Renaud Blanc in the main. Nick came in, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Nick was in lane 8.
Yeah, Nick was in lane 8. Yeah,
Ramirez was in there. The magician. Carlos
the magician.
Ramirez.
Yeah,
and Tremanis.
Ah, there we go. Edsus Germanus, yeah.
Anthony was in there.
And Dino. Wow.
Yeah. So
that was stacked.
Yeah, it was quite a big one, and I've had some laps next to Anthony on that track, on that hill that I lost the battle over the first jump. And so I lined up next to Renault, and I found myself behind the trio of Strombergs, Dode, and Willoughby in turn one. And coming out of the turn one, like Renault tried to push me wide on that step down out of turn one. I was riding on the white line and just got through. So it was like, oh yeah, got past my teammate that I have to beat, kind of. And then in the air, I was coming so fast on that second straight. I saw that I can probably pass Sam on the jump out of the first turn. And then I saw Joris going down in front of me. So I had to kind of switch lanes in the landing of that first jump out of the first turn, and it was really, really hectic. And then I was just following Maris to the line and got my career best in the most important race to that point, because it was just like all or nothing to still keep that dream of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, when you were telling me the story, I started thinking about the Olympic track, because I remember, Papendal was somewhat of a replica, or supposed to be a replica.
As close as they get, yeah.
But if I remember the Olympics, there was a lot of craziness out of the first turn and second straight too in the early qualifying rounds. And so we were talking about that main event, because that, Papendal is that track is, those are big efforts. Like that is a big, fast. Everything, you need everything for that track. You need the power, you need the fitness.
It's a big one, and that's why everybody loves it. And it's like there's less randomness on tracks like that usually. So most of the time, the fastest guy wins the race. And I in the semi, I pushed. I got inside of Sylvain and Nick Kimmen, and pushed them both kind of wide. And Nick went off the track, so I ended the Dutchie. The Dutchie's dream of the repeat of his 2015 win there. And then I found myself in pretty much his situation, but in the main with Renault coming from the inside. But he just, I don't know what he did, but I would have pushed myself off the track probably.
You would, yeah. See, he was nice. He was nice.
Yeah, he was.
I think I also remember talking to Roger Rinderknecht.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was at that race, but I remember it was definitely before Olympic selection, and I knew it was tight before between you and Renault. And he was saying, hey, I don't have a favorite. He goes, but I'd be happy with either one of those guys. I'd be happy with either one of those guys going.
We were 4th and 5th in the overall standings before the Olympic Games in the overall World Cup standing, and one of us didn't make it. So. It was a really, really tight selection, and it hurt to see him not going there. And it was a really tough situation. Like we had a good camaraderie inside the team, even though the pressure was so high. And our selection process was you get 3 points for a main, 2 points for a semi, and 1 for a quarter. And we both had 2 mains and 1 semi at the end, which was at that point for Switzerland, it was amazing.
Yeah.
No one expected us to have 8 points? Yeah, 8 points at the end. So maximum possible was 9 points. It was the best 3 races counted. So the maximum was 9 points, and we both ended up with 8. And then it came down to some small stuff to do the selection. But that race was so important, because after that it was only Colombia. And you know how it is. If you have to do a main at the Worlds, and everything else won't give you the points to achieve your goal, that's quite a big task. So I was relieved crossing the line in the semi, knowing I got that 3 points. Those 3 points, and we are still equal. So,
that's interesting. So but it had to have, since you were equal in points, it had to have come down to who actually did better overall, too. No.
At the end, it was coach's pick.
Oh my gosh!
Because all the criteria was based on those point systems, and we really didn't expect to have two riders that good at the moment. And but at the end I had a second place, he had a third place in the World Cup. I was fourth in the ranking, he was fifth in the ranking.
Got it.
So on hard facts, it was on my side, but then there were some soft some soft skills stuff in there, which were probably more on his side. For example, I kind of cracked under pressure at the Worlds in Colombia, which Roger didn't expect me to do this. Like I had a big crash in training and I just couldn't mentally really recover from it. And Renault handled the pressure really good. And it came down to the Colombia World Championships to who is going to the Olympics. And Renault would have had to do a main to better the points to be safe. And he got fifth in a semi with like photo finish.
Wow.
And I was watching it from the stands because I was out with a photo finish in quarters. And that was the worst feeling in my whole career, probably, watching a friend and being happy that he doesn't make a world team.
And it's like and it's out of your control.
You can't do anything. But I was so stressed in the stands and watching it. But that lead, that build up, and probably one of the biggest pressure situations with that semi in Papendal, watching him doing the main, knowing I have to do it, otherwise I have to do it at the Worlds. And then getting second behind Maris on probably one of the most stacked and biggest races of the year was really special to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like this conversation because, I'm not going to give you a story about myself. I came close, but I'm not. But I like it because you do have a lot of good laps to choose from. Whole shot this, or maybe it was a semi. I mean, you're definitely one of the front runners, probably the last 2-3 years or so of the Supercross scene. A threat to win, and I like that this isn't necessarily like a dominating lap or a dominating main event. I like that. There's a lot of context about. Who was in the main leading up to it.
I know what you mean. Cool. And that's at the end that's what most people don't see. Like the reason why I enjoy this whole thing so much, our little bubble world, is because I thrive on that pressure. It's like that year was probably the craziest and hardest and still the most fun year I had in my career, because it was like always all or nothing. Every weekend you go against your teammate. You're kind of happy for the other guy if you're doing good, because we still wanted to do good both for country points and everything. So it's not like you're kind of rivals and hate each other. And I think we did a great job and still respect each other. But that build up from the Olympics and that pressure you get from it, and then all this behind the races, and that's something that you will never be able to experience if you're not in that moment. So that's why the Olympic year is so much better than everything else. And we get another year of it. So
it's Christmas all over again. So. So this just hit me when you were telling me about the rivalry. So you guys were cool, which is awesome. And it was like a healthy competitiveness, it sounds like. But Renaud Blanc is a very French name, right? So if he's more French side of Switzerland and you're more German side of Switzerland, was there from a country standpoint, was there like a club or track rivalry?
Yeah, well, I didn't really hear much about it, but it was for sure. It's in 2008 and 2012. It was Roger that went.
Yep.
And Roger was from the same club.
Roger.
Yeah, Roger was from the same club, same city, so same area, everything. And some people were not happy about that, like that Roger made it twice. And for example, Yvan Lapras, who was really good at the beginning of his career, and some of the French-speaking Swiss guys, the French side of Switzerland, they kind of thought Roger was going to the Olympics because he was friend with the national coach or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of repeated. So I went to the Olympics and I was a good friend with Roger, but everyone who knows Roger like knows he's probably the last guy to decide something on friendship over facts or over like
this is true.
objectiveness.
Right.
So inside the team, there was no like, even though the selection was the toughest moment you could imagine. We were sitting there, the three of us, well, four of us, but Roger, Renaud, our director of Swiss cycling, and me, for like 3 hours. And it was like, okay, this point is for him. And then we looked at start times from all World Cup events. That's for him, and that's for him.
Oh my gosh,
that's for him. So they try to really evaluate who deserves that spot. And after like 3 hours, we both didn't know who is it, because it was so equal all the time. And yeah, you can imagine some part of Switzerland, they would have loved to have Renaud going, like the Geneva, the club, Geneva, the city, the whole French-speaking area. And probably there were a lot of people thinking that at the end I got the edge because I'm closer to Roger. But I really hope they got over it.
No, I'm glad. I hope so too. But you're a good representative for the country, and the truth is that's kind of like the inner workings of all that stuff. But at every country, there's the fans or the people who are like kind of just looking from the outside. They don't know these stories, and they make assumptions. Even sometimes the riders who are just outside of that small, especially that small height.
Well, true.
I don't want to say high performance bubble, but elite level bubble.
Definitely.
They don't know. And that's always the case, whether it's US or Australia or Netherlands or Switzerland, there's always these little intricacies that people don't know about. So I was just curious to know, because every time I watch, I shouldn't say every time, but there's many times where I've seen you post something, or I've seen someone from Switzerland post something. I mean, you have some fans, like there's the kids gathered around in, whether it's at the track or someplace, watching you race a World Cup or watching you race the World Championships or the Olympics. So that's what made me think about that. It's like you have a really good engaged group of BMX people behind you.
Yeah, I think it helps that I speak French quite fluently. So I can speak with them. I'm kind of approachable for the French speaking part of Switzerland as well. So I'm not like, it's a little harder for the German speaking kids to speak with Renaud, but he lets the style speak for himself. So he doesn't really need the approachable thing. He's just riding, and the kids, they like him. So but definitely I think that we call it in Switzerland, there's a name for the divided country by the language. So it's the Röstigraben. So that's the hash brown valley. Yeah.
Wait,
so, but I think it's getting less. So
how does that go? Röstigraben?
Rösti is a hash brown in Switzerland.
Really? Why hash brown?
Rösti is like a famous dish in Switzerland. That's like you eat that with a lot of Swiss dishes.
All right.
With cheese and eggs and whatever.
The hash brown divide.
Yeah. So, but I think it's getting less and less since we're so successful as a small country. I think it's getting less of the one part thinking the other is getting more support or whatever.
Right.
But there's definitely always some behind the back talking. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in Stuttgart, I know, and I see you post things from that track a lot. You're at some training. How is that track? What is the training environment there? Well, because we haven't raced there yet. So
yeah, well, I really hope they wanted some World Cups after the Olympics, and now maybe I get a home race pretty much.
We'll see. You come. There's
you come out of retirement
to race.
But no, I won't come out of retirement to race anymore after 2021. If the Olympics happen next year, I will retire after the Olympics. But if I get really lucky, we might get a race here before that. But the track is huge. It's probably one of the biggest tracks out there. Not as long straights as Papendal, but more technical. So it's built by Clark and Kent. It's a little bit closer to Glasgow, the European Games track we had.
Yep.
Our European Championships track. Steep lips, steep landings, huge jumps. Very unforgiving. And it would definitely be a pretty challenging track for a World Cup event. It will be more interesting than most other races we've had in the past, I think, because it's a lap where you're not getting around it without a mistake, pretty much. I don't think if you really get a clean lap around it, at least not for 7 laps in a row.
Right. Sounds like, well, I'll be happy to go there to Germany. Anytime we go to a new venue, it's always fun. I like Germany.
It's in the middle of the city too. It would be really cool.
Stuttgart and visit Porsche. So that would be fun. So last question before we tie things up, and you can go on as long as you want or as short as you want. The beginning of the season was like, okay, we're doing this countdown, 11 races or 12 races, 11 races. And then it's like, oh, wait, we're going to have a pandemic and we're going to put his retirement on hold. What was it like to basically have an extension because in your mind, okay, it is done August 2020. Now it's like 2021, it's done. What's that? How is that playing with you?
Well, it changes a lot, that's for sure. I didn't really expect them to postpone the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. I didn't either. That surprised me.
I was expecting it to be cancelled. Actually, I thought they will be cancelled at the end, but they wait as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And if not cancelled, they will do them this year. So that was my thought. And now, since they were postponed, I took a couple of days. I was like, well, what do I do? It's a tough task to keep that level for another year. And I've set up some goals for after the Olympics already. I've spoken with my federation to work as a national coach after. Mm-hmm. I've already put quite a bit of thought into that. What do you want to go to change? How do you want to implement things? Whatever. So now everything is kind of thrown over again. And for me, it doesn't change much because I've never really came up with the countdown. I just said. I
think we were doing the countdown in the tower in our notes.
15 BMX. They just posted a really nice article and then they called it like 12 more. Mm-hmm. So that got took off. And for me, it was more like in a sport like ours, in a small Olympic sport, you kind of, if you want to have a federation to support you, mm-hmm. you kind of have to give a commitment for 4 years. There's no big funding if you say, well, I do 2 more years, but they're non-Olympic or whatever, you kind of give a commitment for another 4 years. And then I'm not going to do another 4 years. And then giving a commit, saying, well, I will continue another 1 or 2 years. But telling them I will do 4 just to get the funding would be wrong, would take off funding from someone else who wants to push for Paris. And for me, I said well, I'm not giving a commitment for another 4 years. And they came and asked me if I want to jump in as national coach after the Olympics. And so it came to, well, why not? I have a clean way out of the sport and a smooth transition. And now we have to figure out how we will do the transition next year. But for now, I get to do another year of what I like. It's not that I'm over it with racing. Yeah. So I enjoy the process. I enjoy training. I wouldn't have minded. It was no problem to race this year. I was probably in the best shape I've ever been. Mm-hmm. I just had a a new hill time PB like 1 week before the lockdown in Stuttgart. So I was in shape, and we'll see if I get to that level or hopefully a little higher next year, which is never an easy task, as you know, to maintain a peak or to build up to the same level again. It's hard. And for now, we take it how it is and hope we get some races announced soon to have something to train for that is a little closer than the whatever 15 months it is to the games.
Then how does that affect? So essentially, is the Swiss qualifying still open?
Well, this time the selection process is a little different.
Swiss selection,
the selection process is a little different. So if you fulfill the criteria by doing one top 8 at the World Cup. So one main event at the World Cup will give you like a selection possibility. So you fulfill the criteria, and then it's coach's pick, and that's Grant White who came up with it. And as you know, Grant left the program after the Tokyo test event because of personal reasons, and now Roger has to deal with this criteria. And Renault is the only other rider at the moment who did a main event this year from the two races we had.
So it sounds like it's wide open again.
Yeah, well, at the moment it would be us two, and we have two
that's
spots.
what I mean, though. Between you two, I mean, it could be any one of you two. It's not like, I mean, you're still racing for it. Well, when racing starts again.
But we have 2 spots at the moment.
Oh, perfect.
So,
okay.
We try to hang on to 2 spots to not make it that hard. But then we have some other riders that are capable of doing a main event. You know,
fast, and
Marquardt is Simon is showing potential. He has a couple of 5ths in a semi, and if he's returning from his knee injury that he had last year from Papendal, he can be a potential finalist. And then there is some young riders with Booty who did a semi in Rock Hill.
Cedric.
And the semi is not far away from a main.
Not at all.
And and then suddenly you have 3 or 4 guys having a main in the books, and then the criteria is open, and then it's coming down to Roger again. And I don't want to be in his skin if that happens. And well, I really hope for Renault to make it, and for me to keep my position, because at the moment I'm pretty safe, but you never know how it turns out.
Right. Right. Well, we'll be watching, and we are all definitely waiting. Thanks, David, for being a guest, man. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and hopefully seeing you soon on the tracks again.
Yeah, I'm itching to get back to an event and get in the mix. So it'll be fun when we get back. It'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. See you guys.